You think you know Goldie Hawn, right? That infectious, bubbly laugh, the wide, innocent eyes, the girl who giggled her way into America's heart and became a Hollywood legend. For over half a century, she was the golden girl, the symbol of pure, unadulterated joy. But what if I told you that behind the brightest smile in Hollywood lies a story of brutal betrayals, quiet resilience, and a final, heartbreaking chapter that no one saw coming? What if the woman who taught us all how to laugh is now facing a storm so fierce it's threatening to erase her own memories? Forget the dumb blonde stereotype, forget the rom-coms. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal the real Goldie Hawn, the trailblazing producer, the fiercely protective mother, and the woman who built an empire only to find herself in a battle against time itself. This isn't just a biography, it's a tragedy unfolding in plain sight. Let's rewind the tape all the way back to the beginning. Goldie Jean Hawn was born on November 21, 1945 in Washington, D.C. Now, you might think she just popped into the world with a perfect pirouette, and you wouldn't be far off. Her family was steeped in art. Her dad, Edward, was a musician, and get this, a descendant of Edward Rutledge, the youngest guy to sign the Declaration of Independence. No pressure, right? Her mom, Laura, ran a dance school, the daughter of Hungarian Jewish immigrants. So you've got this incredible mix of American history and European artistry swirling around this little girl. But there was also a shadow in the house, a secret she wouldn't learn about for years. Goldie and her sister Patty had an older brother, Edward Jr., who had died in his crib before Patty was even born. It was a family tragedy shrouded in silence, a quiet ache that you have to wonder if Goldie felt even without knowing why. By the time she was 3, she was already in her mom's ballet and tap studio. At 10, she's dancing in the Nutcracker with a professional ballet company. This wasn't a hobby, this was a calling. By 19, she drops out of her drama studies at American University to open her own ballet school. 19! Most of us at that age are still trying to figure out how to do laundry. This girl was already an entrepreneur, already carving her own path. You can see the defiance, the independence, right from the start. She wasn't content to just follow the steps someone else laid out. She wanted to choreograph her own damn life, and she was about to find a stage bigger than she could have ever imagined. Fast forward to 1966. Goldie is 21 years old. She's ditched the college thing for good and decides to go all in on dance. With a grand total of $250 in her pocket, $200 of which she immediately spent on a tiny poodle because priorities, she hops on a plane from the East Coast to California. She's got a gig at a theater across from Disneyland, and on that flight, she writes in her diary about staring out the window at the endless sky and thinking about God. The future was a total blank slate. And let me tell you, it got real fast. She lands an offer to dance in Las Vegas. So what does she do? She buys a 1959 Chevy convertible. Perfect, right? The American dream on wheels. Except her dream machine breaks down in the frickin' desert. She's stranded with $50 and her poodle. This sounds like the start of a horror movie, but this is a Goldie Hawn story. So, what happens? She hitches a ride with a Green Beret who's just come back from Vietnam. He drives her through the most dangerous parts of the desert, and instead of being terrified, she feels this weird sense of calm. They spend one single Sunday afternoon together before he drops her off at the Desert Inn. It was the first of many times she'd turn a potential disaster into a legendary story. This woman doesn't just survive chaos, she thrives in it. Her first real gigs in California got her typecast immediately as the dumb blonde. She was cute, she was bubbly, so Hollywood put her in a box. But then came Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In 1968. This show was a cultural phenomenon, and Goldie became its goddess. She was dancing in a bikini, covered in psychedelic body paint, giggling through her lines. She became an icon of the 60s overnight. But here's the kicker. While everyone was laughing at the ditzy blonde, Goldie was already thinking 10 steps ahead. Her first major film role was in Cactus Flower in 1969, playing Walter Matthau's young fiancé. And for this role, her very first big one, she wins the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Let that sink in. The dumb blonde from TV just won the highest honor in Hollywood on her first try? And the story of how she found out is pure Goldie. She wasn't even at the ceremony. She was in London filming another movie and had completely forgotten the Oscars were on. She gets a phone call at 4 in the morning telling her she won. Raquel Welch accepted the award for her. It was this spontaneous, chaotic, dazzling debut. She wasn't playing the game, she was changing it. But even with an Oscar on her shelf, that dumb blonde label stuck to her like glue. Hollywood loved her charm, but they didn't trust her with anything more. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Because Goldie wasn't having it. She starred in hits like Butterflies Are Free and Shampoo, where she started to show more depth. But she realized that to truly break free, she couldn't just be the star. She had to be the boss. In the 1970s, very few women in Hollywood were producing their own films. It was a boys' club through and through. But Goldie looked around and thought, watch me. She took on Steven Spielberg's The Sugarland Express and Warren Beatty's Shampoo, proving she could hold her own with the biggest names in the business. And then came Private Benjamin in 1980. This was her masterpiece, her declaration of independence. She didn't just star in it, she developed it, she produced it. She pitched this idea of a pampered woman joining the army, and every studio in town laughed at her. No one will pay to see a female-led army comedy, they said. They were so wrong. The movie was a colossal hit, grossing nearly $70 million on a $9 million budget. It earned her another Oscar nomination, this time for Best Actress. She had proven unequivocally that she was not just a bankable star, she was a creative force. Her golden era was the 80s and 90s. Overboard with Kurt Russell, a film where their real-life chemistry just exploded on screen. Bird on a Wire with Mel Gibson. And then the commercial peak of her entire career, The First Wives Club in 1996. A movie about 3 scorned women getting revenge on their ex-husbands. It grossed over $181 million worldwide. And here's a little inside baseball for you. The original script was so anti-male that Goldie, Diane Keaton, and Bette Midler all rejected it. Goldie pushed for rewrites to give it more heart and humor. They even made a pact that none of them would try to steal scenes from the others. It was a sisterhood on and off screen. To date, her films have grossed over $2 billion adjusted for inflation. She took the dumb blonde stereotype, turned it inside out, and built an empire on it, all with a line that became her motto. Don't tell me I can't, just watch me.
Now, while her career was exploding, her personal life was, well, a little more complicated. Her first marriage was to a dancer and director named Gus Triconis. They met in '66, fell in love over their shared passion for the arts, and got married in Hawaii in 1969, right as her career was taking off. But as her star rose, his struggled, and the gap between them grew too wide. She later said she was so exhausted by the fame she just wanted to run away to an ashram in India. They separated in '73 but didn't divorce right away. Then, in 1975, everything changed. Goldie gets on a flight and meets Bill Hudson, the handsome guitarist from the Hudson Brothers. The spark was immediate and intense. According to Bill's tell-all memoir, and you gotta take this with a grain of salt because, bitter ex, their second date involved a Rolling Stones concert and a tray of white powder, which he claimed Goldie happily enjoyed. He said they ended up talking in bed for 12 hours and confessed their love even though she was still technically married. Goldie, for her part, has always denied cheating and basically called his book a work of fiction. But here are the facts. On New Year's Eve of 1975, she filed for divorce from Gus and got engaged to Bill on the exact same day. The divorce from Gus got messy. He demanded $75,000, which hurt her because she felt he'd never supported her. She married Bill in July 1976, and they had 2 beautiful kids, Oliver and Kate. On the surface, they were this perfect bohemian family, but behind the scenes, it was the same old story. Her career was a rocket ship, his was stuck on the launch pad. Goldie once said, "Some men just can't handle it when their wives are more successful than they are." And by 1980, Bill filed for divorce. And this is where it gets ugly. he accused her of wanting an open marriage, and after she met Kurt Russell, of intentionally alienating him from his own kids. He claimed she even told him it would look better for her image if the public thought he had abandoned them. This feud has lasted for decades. In 2015, on Father's Day, their son Oliver posted a picture with the caption, "Happy Abandonment Day." It was brutal. Bill fired back, publicly disowning Oliver and Kate and telling them to stop using the Hudson name. It was a complete and total breakdown of a family, played out in the tabloids, a true Hollywood tragedy. But for every difficult man she had to deal with, there was one who would change her life forever, and that man was Kurt Russell. Their love story is the stuff of Hollywood legend. They first met way back in 1968 on a film set. She was 21, he was a babyface 16. She thought he was adorable, but way too young. They were both with other people, and they both swore they would never ever date another actor. Famous last words. 15 years later, in 1983, fate brings them back together on the set of Swing Shift. This time, they're both single. Goldie is a huge star with 2 kids. Kurt has grown into a leading man. And what sealed the deal for Goldie wasn't some cheesy pickup line. It was watching how Kurt played with her kids, Oliver and Kate, when they visited the set. He was just a natural. He wasn't trying to impress her, he was just being a good guy. Their first official date is my favorite story of all time. They go out, have some drinks, and then on a whim decide to go check out a house Kurt was thinking of buying. They don't have a key, so they kind of break in. And of course, the cops show up and catch them. Can you imagine? Their first date was a B&E. It's so reckless and funny and perfectly them. From that moment on, they were inseparable. They made a conscious decision not to get married, not because they weren't committed, but because they valued their independence. As Goldie put it, being unmarried means you wake up every day and choose to be together, not because a piece of paper says you have to. They built this incredible blended family. Goldie's kids, Oliver and Kate, Kurt's son, Boston, from his previous marriage, and then their son together, Wyatt. They raised them all as one big, loud, loving unit, and for over 40 years in a town where marriages last about as long as a carton of milk, they have been the gold standard, a testament to real, enduring love. But let's be real, surviving Hollywood for that long isn't just about finding the right partner. It's about navigating a minefield of massive egos. And for decades, Goldie kept quiet about the colleagues who made her life hell. But recently, at 79, she finally started dropping names, not to be petty, but to set the record straight. First up, Kirk Douglas, a screen legend, right? But behind the scenes, he treated Goldie like a pretty decoration, even after she had an Oscar. He'd cut her off in meetings, dismiss her ideas, and make condescending jokes. The final straw was during a development meeting. Goldie was making a point, and he interrupted her with a belittling remark. She didn't say a word. She just closed her notebook, stood up, and walked out. She never worked with him again. Then there was Warren Beatty, the ultimate Hollywood playboy. He came on strong, trying to use his power and charm to get her into bed. She wasn't interested. And when he politely turned him down again and again, his charm turned to ice. Suddenly, whispers started going around town that Goldie was difficult. Film opportunities mysteriously dried up. She'd never fought back publicly, she just let her work speak for herself and gave him the cold shoulder for the rest of her life. Chevy Chase. They were magic on screen and foul play, but a nightmare off screen. He would constantly improvise to make himself look better, ignore her lines, and treat the crew like garbage. She finished the movie like a pro, but when the studio came begging them to do a sequel, Goldie gave them a hard no. She would never work with him again. Bill Murray. This one really stings. They were supposed to do a comedy together, a dream pairing, but on the first table read, Murray shows up late, mocks everyone, and dismisses the script. Then, during an emotional scene for Goldie, he sneers, "Why don't you try acting like you've ever done drama before?" A low blow meant to dismiss her entire career. Goldie didn't argue. She shut her script, stood up, walked out, and quit the project the next day. Her rule became no chaos agents. She valued her peace more than any paycheck. And the stories go on. Sean Penn, who audibly scoffed and muttered she should stick to giggling after she gave a heartfelt speech at a mental health gala. Dustin Hoffman, who interrupted her dramatic audition to tell her she was still acting like a sitcom. In every single one of these instances, the pattern is the same. a powerful man trying to put her in her place. And her response was never a public shouting match. It was quiet, dignified, and utterly devastating. She simply removed them from her life. She made them irrelevant. That, my friends, is power. Which brings us to today. After decades of fighting these battles, of building a legendary career and a beautiful family, Goldie Hawn at 79 is facing her toughest opponent yet, her own health. At the 2025 Academy Awards, she appeared on stage to present an award, and the world held its breath. She looked radiant, but something was off. When it was her turn to read the teleprompter, she turned to her co-presenter, Andrew Garfield, and said, "Sweetheart, could you read that? I can't read it. I'm completely blind. Cataracts." The audience gave a nervous laugh, but on social media, the concern was palpable. Her words were a little muddled, her demeanor slightly frail. People speculated it was just her vision, others worried about something more serious. Was it medication? A sign of cognitive decline? One comment just said, "It's sad to see Goldie like this. Age eventually reaches us all." The truth is, she's been slowly stepping away from the spotlight for 20 years. After a string of hits, she basically retired in 2002, not returning for a full 15 years. Her appearances are rare now. That moment at the Oscars wasn't just a flub. It was a rare, unfiltered glimpse of vulnerability from a woman who has always been a symbol of strength and vitality. It was a reminder that the Golden Girl is human. Goldie Hawn's life is proof that behind every great laugh there is often a great deal of pain. She fought against typecasting, against sexism, against toxic colleagues, and against bitter ex-husbands. She won. She built a legacy of joy, resilience, and independence. But now she faces the one battle no one can win forever. Time may be clouding her eyes and slowing her speech, but it can never, ever extinguish her spirit. That radiant smile, that defiant spark, that is eternal. Her story isn't just about Hollywood stardom. It's about the beautiful, heartbreaking, and messy business of living a full life. And if that isn't worth celebrating,